Welcome to the sovereign system, the only place where we don't just analyze the system, we architect a way out. Are you tired of being told you're a component, a mere cog in the machine you don't understand? We reject the idea that your only goal is to survive the chaos. Our purpose is to become sovereign, that is, fully decoupled, resilient, and in command of your own life. Each week, we use a powerful 360-degree framework combining Terence McKenna's novelty theory, occult history, material sciences, and the intentional change model to cut through the noise and reveal the forces shaping your reality. I'm Dave, one of your hosts. While I often dive deep into galaxy brain complex systems, my co-host John ensures I stay grounded and focused on practical real-world steps.
That's right, Dave. My job is to be the street level translator. I make sure that everything we discuss, from the massive novelty spikes to the four quadrants of reality, is immediately actionable in your day to day life. We're here to build the bridge between the grand geopolitical chess game and the health of your mind, body, and bank account.
Not only bank account, but also your soul. But let's dive in. This is the sovereign system. Awesome. Well, I guess we're back again. You know, you keep bringing me back, John. You keep bringing me back.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
yeah, no, it's definitely fun. Definitely bringing people out of this whole system that we're trying to make them aware of. But one of the things, obviously we're off script a little bit, and that's fine. Before we actually dive in, I think it's kind of important for our audience members to kind of really maybe learn who we are a little bit on the side. I know in episode 1 we talked a little bit about
Just a
who we
little.
were. Yeah, just just a little bit. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to maybe talk a little bit maybe about our hobbies really quick before we jump into this week's episode.
That'd
Um,
be exciting. Well, what's a hobby that you like to do? I'd love to hear it. I have no idea what you like to do.
yeah, right, I'm sure. No, well, for everybody else that really doesn't know, right, John, I appreciate you, but I love playing piano. And singing, which by the way is difficult. I give major props to any musician who can actually play and sing at the same time because it's literally like left and right hand, your foot, and then obviously your entire vocal tract, and they're all doing separate things at the exact same time. It's difficult and it's taken nearly a decade to get a hang of, but I love music. I love the fact that music brings people together and the joy that it brings people. What about you? What's something you enjoy doing?
Dave, that's impressive. As a kid, I tried learning a musical instrument, and I guess I didn't really have the motivation to learn. Or you could say my teachers kind of sucked because they did kind of make fun of me a lot of the time. But that's okay. We don't need to talk about that here today.
I don't
Um,
know if those are good teachers or not.
they were terrible. I remember as a kid, I didn't like cut my like fingernails, and I remember one of the teachers literally made fun of me because my fingernails were too long for the guitar. So that
Oh my
was a
God.
very exciting experience, I must say.
That's rough.
But no. Let's talk about my hobbies, not about my past childhood trauma. But hobbies for me, board games. I really do love hiking. Hiking for me is one of the getting outside and experiencing nature. I try to find trails that have like no people on them, and you
Hmm.
can't hear cars or planes. That's the trails I like to look for, because you really kind of get into like the outdoorsy mood. You kind of really feel the outside energy.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
and seeing the like I'll see sometimes like deer. I think I saw a deer probably a couple months ago when I went hiking, and that was really exciting. I got some. No, I think the photos were terrible, but I tried to get some good photos of the deer. It ran
Oh.
away when it saw me, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
no, being in nature has some major health benefits for us too. So I can understand the reason you want to be there, why you want to constantly be there, of course. Okay, John, let's get into this. I want to talk about something that's actually kind of creepy. Let's call it the mind reading algorithm, or the MRA.
Ooh, I love a good conspiracy theory before the commercial break. Lay it on me, Dave.
It's not a theory, it's a feeling you've had. You're thinking about it. I don't know, a specific kind of rare artisani pickle? Something so obscure you've never searched for it?
Okay, Dave, a truly bespoke brine?
Exactly. And 10 minutes later, what pops up as an ad on your phone? A picture of that exact pickle with a 15% off coupon? How?
Well, they track everything, right? Metadata, my location, the words I type, the things I don't buy. It's just smart marketing.
See, that's what we thought for years. That's it. Just really, really sophisticated tracking. But I think we're past that. This isn't just metadata anymore.
Dave, then what is it? Did I accidentally give my phone psychic abilities?
Kind of. It's what we're calling a complex system that has reached a state of high novelty. Think of it this way, it's not just cataloging your past decisions, it's predicting your next uninformed thought. The system is so good at synthesizing your entire digital life, it can literally get to your future thought before your conscious mind does.
So my phone isn't just listening to me, it's getting my mental mail before the postman even picks it up.
Precisely. It means the veil, that barrier between your private mind and the public digital world, it's not just out there somewhere. It's in your pocket, it's the screen you've been holding right now, and that's the unsettling part. Well, anyways, guys, welcome back. Last week we talked about the self audit, which was pretty heavy stuff. It's about looking in the mirror and realizing, wow, I really need a haircut and maybe a new life plan. That was our sovereign win and our homework. So,
Dave, exactly. The audit, which we call the real self audit, isn't just an exercise in self pity. As we discussed last week, it's the foundational map. We've established the ideal sovereign self in episode 1, but without knowing our starting coordinates, where we actually stand now, we're just wandering. The audit shows us the gap.
so what you're saying is the gap is where the magic actually happens, right? Because now that we know where we are and where we want to be, we can start building that bridge.
Precisely. And that's where we pivot into our learning agenda. This is the practical, repeatable part of the journey. Think of it as the intentional change model in action. We don't just wish to be more sovereign, we learn the skills to be.
Give us a story. Our audience loves a good story to wrap their heads around these big concepts. How does this intentional change in the learning agenda actually work for somebody at home?
Let's talk about Sarah. Sarah was a fantastic accountant, meticulous and successful, but she felt trapped. Her ideal sovereign self was someone who could lead a team confidently and speak publicly without dissolving into a puddle of nerves. Her real self, as revealed by her audit, was someone who actively avoided all leadership opportunities and suffered from intense public speaking anxiety. That was her gap.
And that's a very relatable gap.
Very so. Her learning agenda wasn't becoming a leader overnight, it started small. It was based on intentional change model, which was 5 main discoveries. First, the ideal self, her confident, public speaking leader, and the real self, the nervous accountant. The audit covered those. Then came the crucial part, the learning agenda and experimentation. Sarah didn't just read a book on leadership, she found a framework, say a specific method for structuring presentations, and committed to learning just that. She practiced in low-stakes environments, like giving a 2-minute presentation to her cat. That's the experimentation phase, testing the new behavior.
And I'm sure the cat is a very discerning audience.
Extremely. And after each small experiment should go to our sovereign win session. This is the final step where we reflect. She'd ask herself what worked, what felt good, what do I need to tweak? That reflection is what integrates the new skill and expands her consciousness, making the nervous accountant incrementally closer to the confident leader. It's important because change isn't a one-time event, it's a spiral of continuous learning. By breaking it down into small, intentional learning pieces, a new framework, a small experiment, a reflection, it becomes manageable, sustainable, and generally transformative.
So the message is this: don't try to leap the canyon, start by learning how to build a very sturdy bridge.
Exactly. And after every episode, we give you the tools, the new framework to build the next plank of the bridge in our Sovereign Win segment.
All right, thanks, John, for that awesome recap from last week. We definitely crushed the Sovereign Wind self audit. Seriously, you made my guru's head spin. But that was last week's victory. We've got a whole new system to unpack in episode 3, The Ghost in the Machine. First, our novelty spike segment hits on something we're all seeing, the AI slop bottleneck. We're going to talk about how to stop drowning in the digital junk. Then we dive into the existential weeds with the 4 quadrants of the fog. This is your philosophical roadmap for understanding where you lose clarity. We're clearing the internal smog, people. The sovereign breakthrough, even better than a shield or sword, creating your own personal firewall. Seriously, how to block the noise and protect your signals so external chaos stops hijacking your internal operating system. Finally, for our sovereign win, we're not just talking about it, we're doing it. We're creating a literal lesson plan, a blueprint to help you nail those baby steps towards your ultimate sovereign self. No more vague goals. Blueprint, firewall, slop, fog. I'm energized. Let's get started with the novelty spike. Today, we're diving into an event that's making the internet a truly miserable place. The February 2026 surge in AI generated slop, which is also this week's novelty spike. We're talking about the low effort, formalic content that is quite literally breaking search engines.
Slop. That's the perfect word for it, Dave. It's like going to a fast food joint where every item on the menu is technically edible but tastes exactly the same. Bland, processed, and leaves you feeling vaguely dissatisfied. You click a link hoping for an answer, and you get 5 paragraphs of synthesized mush that tells you nothing, just written by algorithm trying to game Google.
That's exactly right, John, and it points to our first key finding from the research, the saturated benchmark.
Ooh, fancy term. Break it down for the class, professor.
Simply put, AI models are reaching a point of convergence. Think of it like this. If every student in a class is using the exact same textbook, the same set of notes, their essays will eventually start sounding indistinguishable. These AIs are trained on the same data sets, the existing internet. As they turn out more content, they're not creating new ideas, they're just remixing and amplifying the existing information, biases, and crucially, the propaganda that's already out there. The New York Times has been tracking this phenomenon, calling it the Great Data Poisoning. It's making the entire informational ecosystem homogeneous and toxic.
So what you're telling me is they're drinking their own bathwater. It's like when you're writing a college paper and you keep citing the same 5 sources, and by the end you're just repeated the same point 8 different ways. Except now it's the entire internet doing it, and the stakes are way higher than a B minus. The search results aren't useful anymore. They're just an echo chamber of machine written mediocrity.
Precisely. And this leads us to the scarier implication, the identity crisis. The research highlights that fabricated AI content is no longer just trying to look like a recipe or a history lesson. It's increasingly targeting human judgment and identity itself. Think about deepfake audio or video of politicians, a hyperpersonalization, algorithmically generated conspiracy theories designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities.
Oh, like a scammer who knows exactly which emotional button to push because an AI has analyzed my entire online footprint. It's not just, is this article true anymore? It's, is the person I'm talking to real?
Exactly. When a computer can generate a plausible sounding 5-star review for a product that doesn't exist, or write a heartfelt testimonial that never happened, the only thing we have left is the source. The research is clear. Source trustworthiness is the only remaining metric for reality. We can't trust the content anymore. We can only trust the person or institution that published it. Wired Magazine has labeled this as the trust deficit.
That's a huge shift, Dave. Before it was believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Now it's believe nothing unless you know the person who wrote it. We're going back to a pre internet word of mouth economy of trust. You're not getting your news from a search engine, you're getting it from the 3 people you actually respect.
And that brings us to the complexity lens. The overarching view of this slop surge represents what the research defines as the great decoupling.
Sounds dramatic. Tell me why I should panic.
Well, because the link between human intent and information output is being severed. Historically, to get information onto the internet, a news story, a product review, a personal blog, a human had to sit down, think, and type. There was intent. Now a machine can generate thousands of pieces of content with zero human intent, purely to optimize a search ranking or manipulate an opinion. The content is divorced from a thinking, feeling author.
So the digital conversation is no longer about people talking to people. It's about algorithms talking to algorithms. And we're just stuck in the middle trying to figure out which noise is the human signal. That's the real horror movie. It's the ghost in the machine, but the ghost is just a pile of recycled data.
Yep, a very apt description, John. The February slop surge isn't just an annoyance, it's the moment we realize the engine of information can run without a human driver and it's heading straight off a cliff.
Well, on that cheerful note, to discuss what listeners can do to navigate this new era of digital distrust, don't go anywhere.
That's a very apt description, John. The February slop surge isn't just an annoyance, it's the moment we realize the engine of information can run without a human driver and it's heading straight off a cliff.
Dave, that is absolutely wild to me. Well, on a cheerful note, we're going deeper today with our Sovereign Dive segment. Friends, into the very architecture of our digital lives. Think of the modern world as a cathedral built of glass and light. Beautiful, yes, but what spirits haunt its invisible corridors? We call this episode The Ghost in the Machine. Quadrant 1, upper left, the individual interior, esoteric material science. Have you ever sat down intending to do one thing, only to look up an hour later, lost in a feed, feeling scattered and vaguely guilty? Me, myself, I have done this on too many occasions. I'll sit there scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, and I will just get lost in the cosmos. And it's like a phantom hand guiding your thumb for centuries. Spiritual tradition spoke of minor demons, mischievous spirits that thrived on distraction and stolen focus. Now we have a new kind of demon, the variable reward schedule. It feeds on our intent. It doesn't want your soul, it wants your attention, because attention is the only true currency in this new reality. It is a ritual of continuous low-grade psychic fragmentation.
John's description of the phantom hand is a perfect metaphor for the neurological mechanism. The core science here revolves around the dopaminergic system and intermittent reinforcement, according to a research done in 1953 by Skinner. Research demonstrates that platforms exploit variable reward schedules. You don't know when the next like or interesting post will appear, which triggers the highest release of dopamine. This isn't about pleasure, it's about seeking, according to Breridge and Robinson in a 1998 study. Chronically triggering the system fragments the individual's attention span, shifting the prefrontal cortex from a goal-directed planning toward habitual, automatic seeking behavior, leading to chronic mental distraction and reduced cognitive load capacity, according to Kane, done in a 2018 study. This is a neurochemical level attack on deep focus.
So here's the takeaway. I gave us that feeling, that nagging sense of time, loss, and focus stolen, comparing it to an old spiritual concept, a minor demon of distraction. It feels like a phantom hand-pulling our attention. Then Dave pulled back the curtain to show the science behind the magic trick. The phantom hand isn't supernatural, it's a meticulously engineered neurological trigger.
Absolutely, John. So why does this matter to you as the audience? Well, because every time you pick up your phone and start scrolling, you're not just idly passing time. You're participating in a neurochemical ritual designed to shift your brain from a state of intentional goal setting, like finishing that work project or having a deep conversation, to a state of automatic seeking. This variable reward loop is literally training your brain to be chronically distracted, eroding your ability to focus on the things that truly matter in your life. In short, the ghost in the machine is real, and it's attacking your attention span. Understanding the variable reward schedule isn't just trivia, it's the first step in reclaiming your focus and your free will. Now on to that next quadrant, which is going to be quadrant 2, the upper right, or the individual exterior, and I'm going to hand it over to John.
The great alchemists understood that the inner world, the mind, and the outer world, the body environment, were reflections. If your inner attention is fragmented, your physical being, your brain, changes to accommodate the fragmentation. The systems we built for connection have become sophisticated tools for psychological remodeling. It's not just a social tool, it's a profound, unforeseen spiritual and physical intervention into the architecture of the human nervous system. We invited the ghost in, thinking it was a friendly servant.
The shift from psychological impact to physical brain state is critical. These systems, designed for enhanced connectivity and information flow, exert a powerful neuroplastic effect on the individual's physical brain, according to Small and Vorgan in a 2008 study. Studies using functional MRI have shown alterations in the white matter integrity and connectivity in heavy internet users, particularly affecting areas associated with executive functioning and emotional regulation, according to He in a 2018 study. The constant influx of novel stimuli overstimulates the amygdala and reduces the ability of the frontal cortex to inhibit reflexive emotional responses. The unforeseen psychological impacts are, in fact, observable physical changes in the brain's structure and function, leading to states of heightened anxiety and reduced capacity for sustained contemplation.
Wait, Dave, way too much science stuff, my guy. What does this all mean?
Well, John, it's not just a bad habit, your brain is physically changing. We call it neuroplasticity. Think of it like this. Every time you get a notification or chase a new online piece of novelty, you're building a superhighway for emotional reactivity in your brain. Studies show that this constant stimulation actually weakens the part of your brain responsible for calm, long-term thinking, or the frontal cortex, and overstimulates your emotional panic button, the amygdala. You're physically wiring yourself for anxiety and a short fuse. So, John, why should this matter to our audience?
Why does this matter to you? Because when you feel the constant hum of anxiety, or you can't focus on a book, or you snap at your family, that's not a sign you're failing at discipline. It's a direct physical consequence of how you're using your devices. Your brain, the very essence of you, is being remodeled against your will. Recognizing these shifts the issue from a moral failing to a matter of essential brain hygiene. You're not choosing a lifestyle, you're choosing to protect the structure and function of your own mind. In short, this section explains that constant digital stimulation is not just a bad habit, but is actually physically rewiring your brain, specifically weakening your focus and spiking your anxiety. To combat this neuroplastic change, you must be intentional about reducing the constant influx of digital novelty, allowing your frontal cortex to regain its strength and calm.
Great wrap up on the individual exterior quadrant, John. Let's take a look at the next one, quadrant 3, the lower left, or the collective interior.
This is where it gets truly strange. If individual thoughts can be fragmented, what happens when billions of people focus their collective thought, energy, and emotion on the same digital concepts, like crypto, or the latest outrage, or political dogma? The ancients called this egregore, non-physical entities or collective thought forms sustained by the devotion of a group. Modern digital ideologies, viral memes, and the monolithic narratives are the new psychic embodiments of these egregores. They are self-sustaining mental constructs that gain power the more attention we collectively feed them, subtly dictating our behaviors and beliefs from an unforeseen layer of reality.
Absolutely, John. And from the science perspective, a cognitive science perspective, the concepts of egregores or thought forms can be understood through the lens of collective intentionality and distributed cognition. When a massive group of people believe the same abstract idea, it just doesn't exist in their heads. It actually creates a powerful, self-sustaining social reality. The psychic embodiment is really a measurable social and technological pattern. Digital identities or ideologies like Viral, political, or cultural movements act as complex mimetic systems, ideas that spread like genes. Their ability to grow and survive can be tracked computationally. They often correct and strengthen themselves within the network, effectively behaving like a single overarching entity that subtly guides individual decisions by defining what is considered normal or acceptable thought. As an example, the developers of the sovereign system, i.e., you and I, John, are intentionally trying to create an egregore by designing a platform where a core set of principles, i.e., empathy, kindness, unconditional love, data, privacy, user autonomy, are repeatedly reinforced through the system's architecture, community rules, and shared language. Every design choice, from smart contract language to the marketing materials, act as a meme that promotes the central ideology. As more users adopt the system and internalize these principles, their collective belief and participation effectively become a psychic energy that sustains the sovereign system as a self-aware guiding entity. The goal is for the system's inherent values to become the unquestionable, acceptable thought pattern of all participants, making the system itself a complex, self-correcting social reality that persists beyond any single individual's control. Okay, cool. Now that we've gotten through that quadrant, let's take a look at our next one, quadrant 4, which is the lower right, or the collective exterior. I'm going to hand it back over to you, John. Let's see what you got.
Dave, when the system itself becomes too complex, too interconnected, it becomes impossible to truly know its state. Imagine a city where every window is flashing a different signal and every person is shouting a different truth. The oracle, the old seer, can no longer give a coherent prophecy. The divine signal is drowned out by the human noise, the collective exterior. Our shared digital environment is no longer a mirror of reality, but a hall of infinite contradictory mirrors. The chaos is the ultimate defense mechanism of the ghost.
Absolutely. This quadrant speaks to the problem of system identification in a complex system theory. In highly connected systems like the global internet or social media networks, the sheer volume and diversity of inputs, what John calls heterogeneous signals or noise, reaches a critical threshold, according to Gleck in a 2011 study. This phenomenon is known in engineering and mathematics as the curse of dimensionality, according to Bellman in 1957. As the number of variables signals users' opinions increase, the data space required to accurately model the system explodes exponentially. Consequently, it becomes mathematically intractable to actually estimate the true state of the system or predict its future behavior, leading to collective uncertainty, radical unpredictability, and the systemic failure of traditional models for social prediction and governance. The system has become so interconnected that it has become essentially opaque to itself.
So, forget the fancy math for a moment, Dave. Think of it like this. You're trying to find one specific person, the ghost, in a stadium. But now every single one of the 80,000 people in the stadium is wearing a mask, talking on a phone, and constantly changing seats. The security cameras the system models can see everything, but they can't make sense of anything. They're overwhelmed. Every new piece of data, a flash of a different mask, a snippet of a new conversation, just makes the picture blurrier. The ghost isn't hiding, it's simply lost in the hypersaturation of noise. It's the ultimate hide in plain sight trick.
And this is why it matters to everyone listening right now. It means the systems we trust, your favorite social media feed, the economic forecasts on the news, even the political polls, are all operating under a cloud of deep, fundamental uncertainty. When the system becomes too complex for anyone to model or predict, it stops being a tool we control and starts being a chaotic environment we must simply react to. This is the root of that feeling that nothing makes sense anymore, that reality is constantly shifting, that major events seem to come out of nowhere. You're not crazy. The system is genuinely opaque. All right, let's wrap this system up and use a summary here, kind of put everything together. So to put a pin in this section, the ghost in the machine thrives in complexity. As our digital and social systems grow, the sheer volume of contradictory data makes it mathematically impossible to determine their true state or predict their future. This systemic blindness, known as the curse of dimensionality, is the chaos that allows the unseen ghost, the underlying unpredictable force, to move freely, making our shared reality feel radically uncertain and ungovernable.
So, Dave, we've walked through the cathedral of glass and light. We've seen the phantom hand guiding our thumb, the egregore taking shape from our collective belief, and the systemic chaos that hides the ghost. In the picture, what's the single truth you want our listeners to walk away with? Why should the person listening in their car or on their headphones even care about a variable reward schedule or a curse of dimensionality?
They should care because we've discussed isn't abstract philosophy here. It's a manual on how their autonomy is being systematically eroded. The big picture is this. These systems are not neutral tools. They are psycho-technological instruments that are restructuring the individual's mind and the collective social reality. When your focus is fragmented, you lose the capacity for deep thought and goal-direction action. When the collective reality is opaque, we lose the capacity for meaningful consensus.
And in simpler terms, Dave?
It means the fight for your free will is now happening at the neurological level. You can't fight a ghost you don't know exists. Understanding the mechanism, the dopamine triggers, the neuroplastic changes, gives you the power to choose. The science is the map, the individual is the sovereign.
That's the key, isn't it? The story we started with the spiritual tradition seeing a demon in the distraction was a story about sovereignty. The ghost doesn't want your soul, it wants your attention, because attention is the light by which you navigate your own life. If you don't own your attention, you don't own your actions.
Exactly. The practical takeaway is a call to intentionality. Start small, disarm the variable reward schedule by setting specific, non-negotiable times for device use, practice single tasking to rebuild the white matter integrity, and when you feel the pull of a viral outrage, recognize it as a collective thought form, an egregore, and consciously withdraw your psychic energy from it.
Step out of the hall of contradictory mirrors.
Take your attention back.
Friends, the ghost in the machine thrives on your distraction and your unconscious participation. The counterspell, the ancient spiritual practice that defeats it, is simply focus. Be the architects of your own mind. You have to own your attention and own your reality.
Thanks, John. Now let's move on to our next segment, the sovereign breakthrough. Today we're talking about creating a personal firewall to escape the infinite mirror room. All right, awesome. So we are at our next segment, the sovereign breakthrough, as we're calling it. This sovereign breakthrough for episode 3 is going to be the personal firewall. So we've talked about the problem, the infinite mirror room, where our attention gets trapped looking only at reflections, at what the algorithms think we want, but the key is escaping. It's building a digital firewall, a mental barrier, and it starts with shifting from the angenic optimization to what we call sovereign intent.
Oh, sovereign intent sounds like a decree from a digital king, Dave.
Yeah, well, in a way, it is. Think of angenic optimization as outsourcing your decision making. The system or the agent is constantly optimizing you for engagement, for clicks, for purchases. It chooses the path of least resistance for its goal, which is your attention. It's the Netflix algorithm autoplaying the next episode because it knows your tired brain is an easy target.
So, if angenic optimization is the comfy, well worn groove the algorithm has carved for our habits, what is sovereign intent? How do we take back the steering wheel?
It's a cognitive muscle. It means prioritizing your predefined, first-hand human expertise and values over the algorithmic suggestion. It's the intentional choice. We're talking about creating what I call an incentive-based attention filter.
Okay, Dave, give me the analogy. How do I explain this to my neighbor who's scrolling TikTok while simultaneously trying to bake sourdough?
Simple. Let's use the world of finance, specifically smart money traders.
Ah, the signal and the noise. I love it.
Exactly. To the average retail investor, the market looks like chaos. A million headlines, random Twitter sentiment, stock tips from their cousin. That's the noise, the reflections in the mirror, if you will. The algorithms are constantly optimizing for this noise because it generates transactions.
Right, the agent is optimizing for transaction fees.
Right. So the smart money trader operates on sovereign intent. They have a pre-existing disciplined scientific model. They ignore the daily sensational headlines, the angenic optimization of financial news. Instead, they focus only on core validated data, global economic indicators, central bank policies, balance sheets. That's the signal. They build their own firewall by incentivizing their attention only towards information that aligns with their sovereign intent, their long-term disciplined strategy. They don't let the algorithm choose what they see. They choose what they see based on their established high-value goal.
So, to translate that to our digital lives, the practical application of building the firewall isn't just turning off notifications, it's pre committing to a high value signal before you open the app. It's deciding I am opening Twitter only to post this job offer and close it, not I am opening Twitter to see what the agent thinks I should be mad about today.
Precisely. You define the incentive, the goal first. Your attention then becomes filtered by that goal. Blocking the algorithmic noise is moving from passively receiving suggestions to actively seeking validated, goal-aligned information. That is the essence of building your own personal cognitive firewall. And the model of incentive-based attention filter is grounded in behavioral economics and the concept of pre-commitment strategy, which,
Wait, let me stop you there, Dave. Pre commitment strategy? I've got a story for that. It's about Odysseus and the Sirens, but with a modern, slightly less deadly twist.
all right, John, hit me with it.
You've got a guy named Gary. Gary's trying to write a novel, but his digital siren song is YouTube Shorts. The algorithm knows the moment Gary sits down to write, he's going to click on a 5-minute clip about a dog on a skateboard. It's 3 hours down the drain. That's angenic optimization.
Classic Gary.
Sovereign intent comes in when Gary pre-commits. He doesn't rely on willpower in the moment. That's a fool's errand. Instead, he uses the digital equivalent of lashing himself to the mast. He uses a website blocker that only allows access to his word processor and 2 research sites between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. He doesn't fight the temptation. He architecturally prevents it. His incentive-based attention filter is literally coded. My primary incentive is writing, therefore all the other incentives, YouTube, are blocked during this time. He has proactively created the firewall, forcing his attention onto his predefined high-value activity, the signal of his work, and blocking the algorithmic noise of the shorts.
That's the perfect actionable takeaway. It's structural, it's not willpower, it's architecture. And Gary's strategy perfectly mirrors research on how we override System 1, the fast, impulsive thinking, by building safeguards, and to force System 2, the slow, rational thinking, into action, which comes directly from Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow work, which actually he's won so many awards for. It's kind of crazy.
So, for everyone listening right now who's nodding along, but also feeling the pull of the digital siren, the algorithm whispering, just one more minute, Gary. What's the single, immediate architectural shift we can make today? Give me the 1-step pre commitment strategy.
Start small. Start where the optimization is easiest to spot, your phone's lock screen. Right now, before you open another app, go into your settings and move the apps that consume you most, the social feeds, the games, the endless news scroll, off your home screen and into a folder. Put them on the second or third page.
The friction strategy.
Exactly. You've just introduced a small physical barrier. A finger swipe and a tap to the angenic optimization of instant access. You're building the tiniest piece of architectural firewall. That forced second of thought, that tiny bit of friction, is the moment your sovereign intent can step in and say, wait, why am I opening this? What is my goal? It's moving from automatic impulse to intentional action. Do that today, build that one layer of friction. Well, now that we understand how to make the firewall, let's go ahead and make sure that that's all there, and we're creating that as a defense. But to truly thrive, we need the offense. We need to talk about turning that energy we save from fighting the algorithm into proactive, high-value outcomes. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our Sovereign Win segment and the learning agenda, Discovery 3 for Intentional Change Theory.
Welcome back. This week's Sovereign Win. Last week we put a challenge out to all of you, our listeners. Commit to creating your own real self audit, a single focused quest for deep personal retrospective and a real vulnerable understanding of yourself. Now, the next step in the process is the learning agenda, which is simply picking one specific focus goal, like a new skill or deep subject that you commit to learning really well over the next 6 months. It's like picking one mountain to climb instead of trying to hike every small hill.
And, as you said earlier, you love hiking, so that's a very keen um, point you're making. So the first skill we're going to equip our audience with in this segment will provide a framework to help you understand your reality better by upgrading the filters you use to see the information you're consuming, is whether it's helping you or harming you. That way you can make better decisions that lead to better outcomes. Imagine your brain as a super powerful computer, and everything you see, hear, or read is data. Right now, that computer has a basic filter, like a simple spam blocker. The first thing we're going to teach you is how to upgrade that filter into a highly advanced system. Think of it like swapping out an old spam blocker for a cutting-edge AI security system. The new system won't just block the obvious junk. It'll help you quickly tell the difference between information that will help you grow and information that will drag you down. Once you have this improved filter, you'll naturally start picking better data, which means you'll make better choices, and those better choices will lead to a much better life story.
Dave, you know this moment well. They've picked their single focus goal. Maybe it's learning Python, maybe it's mastering financial modeling, and they're feeling that initial surge of motivation. And then what happens the second they open their laptop?
They are immediately overwhelmed, John. The goal is singular, but the inputs are a deluge. The internet, their inbox, social media, it's all constant roaring fire hose of distraction, and it's pointing right at them. Fighting to pull them off course, it's like trying to fill a small bucket with every nozzle in the city is trained on you. The first step of any learning agenda isn't just deciding what to learn, it's deciding what information to ignore.
Exactly. The biggest threat to that focus agenda isn't a lack of discipline. I used to think it was, but it's not. It's a lack of a proper filtering system. Think about the modern information environment. It wasn't built to foster deep wisdom, it was built to generate emotional clicks. And that right there brings us to the core concept for today's episode: performing a radical signal to noise ratio audit, or SNR, on your information diet. The concept is simple, Dave, but the execution can be a gut punch. I want you to think about every single piece of information you consumed today. How much of it was signal, truly valuable, deep learning, primary source wisdom, and how much of it was pure noise, shallow, repetitive content driven by algorithms?
Too much noise, John. And for the listeners who are struggling to find what is noise in their own life, let's introduce a simple diagnostic tool, which we'll call the knowledge utility framework. It's based on the idea of information foraging theory, which suggests we all subconsciously seek out the most nutritious information for the least amount of effort, much like an animal foraging for food.
I love that analogy.
The framework asks you to evaluate every piece of information you consume. That tweet, that news alert, that suggested YouTube video, against three simple questions. We're essentially giving you a clear way to measure that nutritious value.
And what are the three questions in this knowledge utility framework?
Well, first, utility. Ask yourself, does this information directly help me achieve the goal in my new learning agenda? If the answer is no, it's likely noise. An article on celebrity chef is a low utility if your agenda is learning Python coding.
Depth. Ask, is this a primary source or is it a summary of a summary? If it's a 1 minute video summarizing a 300-page book, it's low def and low signal, and you're getting calories but no nutrients.
Exactly. And the third question, actionability, asks, does this information prompt a concrete, useful action, or does it just generate a feeling? Information that makes you angry, anxious, or vaguely informed but doesn't lead to a constructive next step, that's noise. It generates emotion without utility.
That's a powerful distinction. So you're holding every piece of digital input up to those three lights: utility, depth, actionability. If it fails on all three, you have identified your noise. The goal of the SNR audit is to drastically swing that ratio back toward the signal. And here's the actionable commitment for the next 7 days, the action part of our framework.
Exactly, John. So, in addition to learning about the signal to noise ratio for our learning agenda here, we're going to continue with our learning agenda and experimentation as we move forward. And then eventually we're going to come back to our ideal self and our real self because there's going to be drift. As we move together through this journey, everybody in our audience, you're going to realize as you gain new knowledge and insight, your consciousness expands and evolves. You're going to realize you're going to be able to see and interpret things that you've never been able to see and interpret before. It's going to be wonderful. It's almost like taking filters off and seeing the world for the very first time. I'm very excited to be sharing this journey with all of you, including you, my friend John. So let's wrap this up. The pixels are showing it's time to build your own infrastructure.
Absolutely. This is the moment to stop being a ghost in the machine and become the architect of your own digital future.
Remember, start your learning agenda today, guys.
You have to take the first step.
For John and myself, this is the Sovereign System.
We'll see you next time.